23 alphas had died in accidents over the past decade. Cade Blackwood, king of the Northern Territories, didn't believe in coincidences, especially not when every dead alpha had opposed the same wolf, Marcus Griffin. The morning light cut through the floor-to-ceiling windows of the command center, turning the Montana peaks beyond into jagged silhouettes against a blood-orange sky. Cade stood at the tactical table, 35 years of leadership compressed into the posture of a man who carried weight without bending. His dark hair, pulled back at the neck, revealed a face that inspired loyalty in some and caution in others. The storm-gray eyes that studied the maps before him had seen enough violence to recognize its patterns. Colonel Hayes entered without knocking, 55 years old, graying at the temples with the scarred hands of a warrior who'd earned his rank in combat rather than politics. He carried 2 files under one arm and a thermos of coffee that smelled like it had been brewed strong enough to strip paint. Coffee first, then the bad news. Cade took the offered cup, the liquid burn going down exactly how he preferred it. Hayes didn't deal in pleasantries or small talk. 3 decades of military service had refined him down to pure efficiency. The first file hit the table. Personnel roster for Pine Haven Pack, Colorado. Population 215 unmated alphas known for conservative politics and resistance to Omega protection reforms. Marcus Griffin's territory. The second file landed with more weight. Incident reports spanning 10 years. Alphas dying in freak accidents, rogue attacks, sudden illnesses. Each death had been investigated, closed, filed away. Clean paperwork, neat conclusions. Too neat. Cade flipped through the pages, committing names and dates to memory. Alpha Rodriguez, Border Patrol, ambush. Alpha Winters, heart attack at 40. Alpha Chen hunting accident. Alpha Thorne killed during a claiming frenzy 6 years ago. The list went on, each death a small tragedy that together formed something larger and more sinister. Your inspection tour starts tomorrow. Pine Haven, first stop. Hayes leaned against the table, arms crossed. His expression said what his mouth wouldn't. This wasn't routine inspection. This was reconnaissance into hostile territory. Marcus knows we're coming. Official notification went out 3 weeks ago. He's had time to prepare, which means he's had time to hide anything worth finding. Cade closed the files and walked to the window. Silvercrest stretched below, a fortress city built into the mountainside. 10,000 wolves called it home. His responsibility, his kingdom. Built on principles his father had established, and he'd expanded. Every wolf under his rule deserved protection, regardless of designation or political affiliation. No exceptions. Marcus preaches tradition, old ways. Alphas rule Omegas, submit beta support. Clean hierarchy. Hayes poured himself coffee from the thermos. And anyone who disagrees tends to have unfortunate accidents. The pattern was there, stark as daylight once you knew to look for it. Marcus visiting a territory advocating for traditional policies, then an alpha dying unexpectedly. The deceased alpha's pack falling into chaos. Marcus positioning one of his allies to take control. Consolidating power territory by territory, influence by influence. Patient, methodical, deadly. Take Connor, 6 warriors, rotation shifts. Nothing visible that screams security detail. Already arranged. Connor's picking the team now. Good. Marcus will expect standard inspection protocol. Let him think that's what he's getting. Hayes studied him for a long moment. And what are we really doing? Finding proof. One way or another. The helicopter touched down on the landing pad outside Pine Haven Pack House at 1400 hours. Mountain wind whipped across the clearing, carrying the scent of pine and something else. Fear, maybe, or anticipation. Hard to tell the difference sometimes. Cade stepped out, first boots hitting concrete, with the confidence of a man who owned every inch of ground he walked on. The delegation waiting to greet them stood in formal arrangement, 12 wolves arranged by rank and designation. Military precision, Marcus's influence. The alpha himself stood at center, silver hair, catching afternoon light. Marcus Griffin at 50 looked like someone's distinguished grandfather, the kind of elder who might tell stories by a fireplace and dispense wisdom with a gentle smile. The kind of mask that predators wore when they needed to blend into civilized society. King Blackwood. Welcome to Pine Haven. We've prepared everything for your inspection. The voice matched the appearance. Warm, respectful, completely artificial. Cade had spent enough years in politics to recognize performance when he heard it. Alpha Griffin, thank you for accommodating the schedule change. No change at all. We're honored to host you. The greeting party maintained perfect formation as introductions proceeded. Beta 2nd Gamma Warriors, Pack Physician, Head of Household. Names and faces that would matter later if this turned into the investigation Cade suspected it would become. Hayes stood 2 steps back and to the left eyes cataloging exits and sightlines. Connor held position with the Warriors alert without appearing tense. They were escorted through corridors decorated with photographs spanning decades. Pack history immortalized in black and white then color. Alphas shaking hands, Warriors in formation celebrations and ceremonies. Normal pack life documented and displayed. Nothing to suggest the darkness Cade knew lurked beneath. The guest quarters offered a view of the training grounds and forest beyond. Spacious, comfortable, isolated from the main pack areas. Standard protocol for visiting dignitaries, but also convenient for keeping them contained and monitored. Dinner is at 1800 in the main hall. Unless you prefer to rest and after the journey, Marcus stood in the doorway, the perfect host showing concern for his guests' comfort. The smile never quite reached his eyes. Dinner sounds appropriate. I'd like to tour the facilities first. Standard inspection routine. Of course, I'll have Beta Morrison show you around. Cade moved to the window, dismissing Marcus without turning. Actually, I prefer to walk the territory myself. Get a feel for the pack without official escorts. You understand? The pause lasted 3 seconds, long enough to be noticeable, long enough to confirm that Marcus absolutely did not want the Alpha King wandering unsupervised through Pine Haven. Of course, though I should mention pack members may be startled by your presence without warning. Security protocols suggest advance notice for everyone's safety. Translation, don't talk to my wolves without a handler present. Cade turned, offering the kind of smile that had ended negotiations and started wars. I'm sure your pack members can handle meeting their king, unless there's something specific you're concerned about. Another pause. Marcus's mask slipped, just slightly revealing calculation beneath courtesy. Not of course. Tour at your leisure. I'll see you at dinner. The door closed with a soft click that sounded like a trap being set. Hayes waited until footsteps faded down the corridor before speaking. He's hiding something. Question is what and where. Connor appeared in the doorway, having performed his own sweep of the surrounding area. Perimeter secure. No obvious surveillance in guest quarters, but that doesn't mean it's not there. Recommend we assume all conversations are monitored. Cade nodded. Standard operational security from here forward. Hand signals for anything sensitive. We start the tour in 30 minutes. Connor pulled background on all senior pack members. Focus on anyone who joined in the last 6 years, looking for something specific. Anyone who doesn't fit. Wolves who showed up after an alpha died. Transfers from territories Marcus has influence in. Pattern recognition. The Pack House tour revealed exactly what it was designed to reveal: a well-maintained facility, organized pack structure, wolves going about daily routines with practiced efficiency. Everything regulation compliant. Everything carefully staged for inspection. Cade noticed what wasn't shown. The Omega quarters dismissed as being renovated. The medical wing explained away as respecting patient privacy. The training facilities' restricted areas justified as containing sensitive tactical information. Each deflection professional, each excuse reasonable, each one adding weight to the suspicion growing in his gut. The walk through pack territory proper told a different story. Omega wolves kept their eyes down when alphas passed. Warriors moved in tight formations even during off-duty hours. Pack members maintained careful distance from each other, interactions brief and formal. The social dynamics of a pack under control rather than at ease. Hayes caught his attention with a subtle gesture. Southeast quadrant small workshop, single occupant, Omega designation, keeps to herself. Cade altered course toward the indicated building, a modest structure separated from the main residential area. Through the window movement, someone working at a table bent over fabric. The workshop of a seamstress from the looks of it. Practical, isolated, easy to overlook. The chemical scent hit him 10 feet from the door. Wolfsbane, Ostbane, Nightshade, other compounds he recognized from tactical training on poisons and their uses. Not strong enough to be dangerous at this distance, but present, persistent. The kind of smell that came from long-term exposure rather than single-dose contamination. Hayes noticed it too. That's not medicinal. No, it's suppression. The pieces started fitting together, and Omega using poison to suppress scent. Extreme measure, desperate measure. The kind of action that spoke to fear deeper than anything ordinary pack life should generate. In Marcus's territory, standard protocol said knock announce presence request permission to enter. Investigation protocol said gather intelligence first. Cade stepped to the window, keeping to the angle that prevented easy detection from inside. The Omega working at the table moved with the careful precision of someone in chronic pain, each motion calculated to minimize discomfort. 22, maybe 23 years old, but the gray pallor of her skin and the brittle quality of her movements suggested someone decades older. Malnourished, ill, dying. She reached for something on the shelf. Her sleeve rode up, revealing arms marked with the kind of damage that came from repeated poisoning. Damaged veins, discolored skin, the physical evidence of someone systematically destroying their body from the inside. Hayes moved closer. We need to report this to Pack Medical. That Omega needs treatment. We need to know why first. Omegas don't poison themselves without reason. The workshop door opened, not Cade's doing. The Omega emerged carrying a bundle of fabric. She moved past them without acknowledgement, eyes fixed on the ground 3 feet ahead. The chemical scent intensified at close range, confirming what Cade already suspected. This wasn't accidental exposure. This was deliberate, sustained self-poisoning. She was 10 steps away when it happened. A stumble, the fabric bundle tumbling from her grip, her knees buckling as if the simple effort of walking had exhausted reserves already depleted. Cade reached her before she hit the ground, instinct overriding protocol. His hands caught her shoulders, steadying her weight. The contact sent electricity through both of them. A jolt that had nothing to do with static and everything to do with biology. The mate bond snapped into place like a physical blow. Recognition on a level deeper than conscious thought. Destined mates written into genetics and fate and whatever force governed these things. Undeniable, immediate, devastating. Her eyes went wide, not with joy or recognition, with pure terror. No, not you, not now. She wrenched away from his grip with strength that shouldn't exist in someone so physically compromised. The fabric forgotten, she ran, not toward pack house or safety, toward the forest, toward escape. Cade stood frozen, the mate bond singing through his nervous system like a live wire. Every instinct screamed to pursue, to claim, to protect. The rational part of his mind that had kept him alive through 3 decades of leadership imposed control through sheer force of will. Hayes appeared at his shoulder. Sir, what just happened, mate bond? She's my destined mate, and she ran, because she's terrified of me, of the bond, of something. The pieces were falling into place too fast, and Omega poisoning herself to suppress her scent. In Marcus's territory, Marcus who opposed Omega protection laws, Marcus who'd been present at the claiming frenzy that killed Alpha Thorn 6 years ago, and Omega who should be dead from the poison levels in her system but somehow still alive, still hiding, still surviving. The sound of footsteps announced Marcus's approach before his voice carried across the clearing. Is there a problem, King? The false concern grated. Cade turned, keeping his expression neutral. One of your pack members collapsed. Health issues from the look of it. Rowan, she suffers from chronic illness. Very sad case. We do what we can for her, but some conditions have no cure. What kind of condition? Marcus moved closer, playing the concerned alpha. Some sort of blood disorder. Weakens her constitution. The pack physician has treated her for years with limited success. The lie sat between them like a third presence. Marcus knew exactly what was killing Rowan. The question was whether he was causing it or simply allowing it to continue. I'd like your pack physician to examine her. Get a second opinion. I'm sure Dr. Chen would be happy to consult, though Rowan is quite private about her condition. She may not consent to examination. Then I'll speak with her directly. Request her cooperation. Something shifted in Marcus's expression, the mask slipping again, revealing the predator beneath. Of course, though I should mention she's quite fragile, easily distressed. It might be best to approach through proper channels. Translation, stay away from her. Don't ask questions. Don't investigate. Everything in Marcus's tone and body language screamed possession and control disguised as concern. I'll keep that in mind. The dinner that evening was a masterclass in political theater. 50 pack members arranged by rank and importance with the Alpha King seated at Marcus's right hand. Speeches welcoming the honored guest. Toasts to prosperity and tradition. The kind of formal affair designed to impress and distract. Cade played his role, gracious guest, attentive listener, occasionally asking the expected questions about pack operations and territorial management. Nothing that would raise suspicion. Nothing that revealed the investigation already forming in his mind. Rowan served, moving through the hall with careful steps, filling glasses and delivering dishes. Invisible to most of the assembled wolves, just another Omega performing expected duties. But Cade tracked her movements with peripheral awareness, cataloging every wince and hesitation. The mate bond hummed beneath his skin, a constant reminder of the connection she was trying desperately to ignore. Their eyes met once across the crowded hall. For a fraction of a second, he saw past the fear to something else. Exhaustion, resignation, the look of someone who'd fought too long and was running out of strength to continue. Then Marcus spoke, drawing attention back to the head table. A question about royal policy toward rogue enforcement. Cade responded with the appropriate political answer, but his mind was already elsewhere. Planning, calculating, determining the next moves in a game that had just become infinitely more complex. Hayes caught his eye from the lower table, a slight nod toward the doorway where Rowan had disappeared. Connor would be following at a discreet distance, gathering intelligence. They'd have answers by morning. The speeches continued, Marcus waxing eloquent about the importance of tradition, the value of established hierarchies, the dangers of rapid change. It was a sales pitch disguised as friendly conversation. An alpha testing boundaries, probing for weaknesses in the king's positions, laying groundwork for future opposition. Traditional ways serve us well. Omega protections sound compassionate, but they disrupt natural order. Alphas evolve to lead and protect. Omegas evolve to be protected and guided. Forcing equality where biology dictates hierarchy only creates chaos. Cade could have argued, could have cited the dozen packs successfully implementing protection laws, could have mentioned the reduction in claiming violence, the improvement in Omega quality of life, the strengthening of pack bonds when all members felt valued rather than owned. Instead, he offered a non-committal response. Every pack must find balance that works for their circumstances. Marcus smiled, satisfied he'd made his point. Exactly. Which is why these sweeping reforms concern me. What works in California may not work in Colorado. Local autonomy matters. It was a reasonable position articulated well. It was also a smokescreen for something much darker. Cade had heard similar arguments before. From alphas later discovered running illegal Omega trafficking. From leaders using tradition as justification for abuse. From wolves who mistook control for strength and fear for respect. The dinner finally concluded near midnight. Cade excused himself, citing fatigue from travel. Marcus walked him to the guest quarters, personally maintaining perfect hospitality. The door closed with that same soft click, and Cade stood in the center of the room waiting. Hayes emerged from the shadows. Connor disabled the surveillance. Good. Report. Connor stepped forward. Rowan Thorne, age 22. Official record says she arrived 6 years ago, sole survivor of rogue attack that killed her family. Took work as seamstress's apprentice. Keeps to herself. Chronic illness. That's the story. In the reality, facial recognition got a hit. Missing person report from Wyoming 6 years back. Same Rowan Thorne. Daughter of Alpha Thomas Thorne. Disappeared the night of a claiming frenzy at summer solstice celebration. Presumed dead. The same Alpha Thorne in the incident files. The same claiming frenzy that Marcus had attended. Coincidence had stopped being credible about 3 revelations ago. Thomas Thorne was pushing Omega protection reforms, forming coalition to petition the Alpha King for law changes. He died before he could present his case. Marcus was there, visiting dignitary. Clean alibi. Official investigation concluded the frenzy was triggered by true Omega manifestation. Uncontrollable biological response. Tragic accident. No charges filed. Except the true Omega survived. And she's been hiding in Marcus's territory for 6 years, poisoning herself to suppress her scent. Hayes pulled out additional files. It gets worse. cross-referenced Marcus's travel records with the 23 suspicious Alpha deaths. He was present at or near every single incident, sometimes official business, sometimes personal visits, always with plausible explanation, always cleared by investigation. Patterns too consistent to be coincidence. He's either the unluckiest wolf alive or he's orchestrating these deaths. The evidence was circumstantial, suggestive, not enough for formal charges, but more than enough to justify deeper investigation. The question was how to proceed without tipping Marcus off that he was under suspicion. We need to talk to Rowan, get her testimony about what happened that night. She ran from you this afternoon. Doubt she'll cooperate. The mate bond complicates things, but it also means I'm the one alpha in this territory she might be able to trust. Eventually. Connor cleared his throat. Sir, there's one more thing. Pack physician is Dr. Chen. She's been treating Rowan for 6 years. Medical records show consistent diagnosis, blood disorder, unknown origin treatment, ineffective. But her private notes tell different story. Cade waited. Connor hesitated, which meant the next information was significant. Dr. Chen documented suspected poisoning 3 years ago, brought concerns to Marcus. He ordered her to stop investigating, said it was respecting Rowan's privacy. She complied. But she's been keeping separate records. Everything points to self-administered toxins for scent suppression. Why would Marcus know about True Omega in his territory and allow her to slowly kill herself unless he wants her to die? Eliminates a witness to whatever really happened 6 years ago. Or he's using her, keeping her weak and desperate, dependent on his permission to stay hidden. The strategic possibilities were ugly. A True Omega under control represented leverage, political capital, insurance against accusations, since exposing her would trigger claiming frenzies and violence that could be blamed on her mere existence. Marcus could argue that True Omegas were dangerous, that protection laws would lead to case, and he'd have a living example to point to. We extract her. Tonight. Get her to Silvercrest, where she'll be safe. Hayes shook his head. She runs if Marcus knows we're onto something. Whole investigation blows up. He destroys evidence, warns his network, disappears anyone who could testify. Then we do this carefully. Gain her trust, get her testimony, build the case before making any moves. The plan had risks. Every day Rowan remained in Pine Haven was another day she poisoned herself. Another day closer to organ failure and death. But rushing extraction would cost them the larger case. The 23 dead alphas deserve justice, not just one rescued Omega. Tomorrow I request private audience with Pack physician. Official inspection protocol, Dr. Chen talks to me without Marcus present. We see how much she's willing to share. And Rowan, I'll find a way to talk to her. Convince her I'm not the threat she thinks I am. The mate bond was both advantage and complication. It meant Rowan would feel the pull toward him whether she wanted to or not. But it also meant every instinct would tell her that accepting the bond meant giving up the control she'd fought 6 years to maintain. Trust would have to be earned, and earned fast. Morning brought mountain fog thick enough to cut visibility to 30 feet. Perfect weather for clandestine meetings. Cade requested Dr. Chen's presence under the guise of discussing Pack health protocols. Standard inspection procedure. Marcus couldn't refuse without raising suspicion. The Pack physician was 70 if she was a day with hands that shook from arthritis and eyes that missed nothing. She entered the conference room with the careful dignity of someone who'd seen too much and said too little for too long. Chen, thank you for making time. I have questions about Pack health management practices. Of course, AlphaKing. How may I assist? Cade dismissed the guards. Hayes remained positioned between them and the door. Connor stood outside, ensuring no interruptions. Dr. Chen's eyes tracked the security arrangements, understanding dawning. This is about Rowan, not a question, a statement. Cade respected directness enough to return it. Tell me what's really killing her. The physician's shoulders sagged. 6 years she'd carried this secret. 6 years watching a young Omega destroy herself. The relief of finally being asked by someone who might actually help showed in every line of her face. Wolfsbane extract, nightshade tincture, 3 other compounds I can identify, and 2 I cannot. Daily ingestion for at least 6 years, possibly longer. Cumulative toxicity is catastrophic. Liver function 40%, kidneys 35%, bone density severely compromised. Neurological damage evident. She's dying. Why hasn't Marcus stopped it? I asked him that 3 years ago when I confirmed poisoning. He said respecting her privacy was more important than violating her autonomy. Ordered me to stop investigating. Said if she wanted help, she'd ask for it. But she's terrified to ask for help because she's hiding something. Dr. Chen nodded. I believe she's a true Omega. The sense suppression would explain everything. The desperation, the willingness to die slowly rather than live with her nature exposed. You knew suspected, could never confirm. True Omega scent is completely suppressed by that poison cocktail. But the psychological profile fits. The fear, the isolation, and the physician hesitated. Cade waited, giving her space to decide how much to reveal. I was at Silver Creek the night Alpha Thorn died, visiting family. I saw the claiming frenzy, saw Marcus speaking to the unmated Alphas beforehand, saw him with Alpha Thorn right before the Omega's scent manifested, and I saw the girl run into the forest. Only got a glimpse, but you think it was Rowan? I think Marcus knows exactly who she is, and I think he's been keeping her here as insurance. As long as she's hidden and terrified, she can't testify about what really happened that night. What did happen? Dr. Chen's hands trembled. Not from arthritis, from fear. That's something you'd have to ask someone who was closer to the center of it. I only saw pieces. But AlphaKing, I'm telling you this now because that girl is running out of time. Another year, maybe less, and the poison will kill her. If you can help her, please do it, before it's too late. I intend to, but I need evidence about Marcus, about the frenzy, about how he's connected to other Alpha deaths. Then you need to talk to the soldiers. The ones who were commanded that night. Commanded. The word hung heavy with implication. Alpha Command used to trigger a frenzy, to turn rational wolves into mindless attackers, to create the chaos that would kill Thomas Thorne and eliminate his reform movement. Do you have names? 7 Alphas were tested for elevated command markers after the frenzy. Standard medical protocol. All 7 showed positive. Those records were sealed by official order. But I kept copies. She produced a data chip from her pocket. Everything's on here. Medical records, my private notes, the names. Enough to start your investigation. Cade took the chip. This is evidence of murder. If Marcus finds out you gave this to me, then I die like Alpha Thorn did, like 22 other Alphas, like Rowan is dying right now. At least my death would mean something. The courage of someone choosing right over safe. Cade stood, extending his hand. You've done the right thing. I'll protect you. Just protect her. That's all I ask. The fog lifted by midday, revealing a territory that looked peaceful in afternoon light. Deceptive. Everything about Piney Haven was deceptive. Pretty surface hiding rot beneath. Cade found Rowan in her workshop predictably. She worked without looking up, aware of his presence but refusing to acknowledge it. The fabric beneath her hands was destined for pack house curtains, delicate embroidery that required steady fingers and clear vision, both of which she had to be struggling with given the poison coursing through her system. We need to talk. She didn't pause. I have nothing to say to you. Then listen. I know who you are. I know what happened 6 years ago, and I know Marcus has been using you. Her hands still, the needle caught light, suspended in the act of piercing fabric. One wrong word and she'd bolt again. Cade kept his distance, giving her space. Your father was Thomas Thorne, Alpha of Silver Creek. He died protecting you during a claiming frenzy triggered by your true Omega manifestation. You ran. Found someone who taught you how to make poison to suppress your scent. You've been drinking it every morning for 6 years. And Marcus knows how I'm AlphaKing. It's my job to know. She finally looked at him. The gray pallor of her skin was worse in direct light, the chemical scent stronger. She was barely holding together, body and mind, pushed past sustainable limits. If you know all that, then you know why I can't trust you. The mate bond doesn't change what I am or what that means. Every Alpha is a threat, including you. Fair assessment. If you were in my territory without autonomy or choice. But you're not. You're in Marcus's territory, dying by inches, while he uses your fear to keep you silent about murder. I don't know anything about murder. You know Marcus was there the night your father died. You know what he did. That makes you a witness. And that makes you leverage he'll kill to protect. Rowan set down the embroidery. Her hands shook worse now. Adrenaline or poison or fear cycling through her system. If I testify, he'll expose what I am. Every unmated alpha in hearing distance will sense it. The frenzy will start again. My father will have died for nothing. Or you testify, we take down Marcus and his whole conspiracy, and we pass the protection laws your father died trying to establish. Make his death mean something. She laughed, bitter sound, sharp edges. You want to use me too. Different reasons, maybe better intentions, but still using me. Cade moved closer, slowly, letting her track every step. I want to give you choice. Real choice, not the illusion of control you've been had for 6 years. The poison isn't freedom, it's a slower death sentence. You're trading years of your life for temporary safety from a threat that shouldn't exist in the first place. And accepting the mate bond, that's freedom. It could be, if you chose it, not because biology dictates it, not because I commanded it, but because you decided that living with someone who'd protect you without controlling you is better than dying alone. She studied him, looking past the AlphaKing authority, past the mate bond pull, trying to see the man underneath, determine if he could be trusted with the secrets and scars she'd carried for 6 years. I need time, take it. But Rowan time is the one thing you don't have much of. Dr. Chen says you have maybe a year before organ failure kills you. I can get you treatment, get you safe, help you heal. But only if you let me. Why risk your political capital on one Omega? Because it's the right thing to do. Because your father was trying to change laws that need changing. Because 23 other alphas are dead and Marcus needs to pay for it. And yes, because you're my mate and every instinct I have is screaming to protect you. But mostly because you deserve better than slow suicide in a workshop while your father's killer pretends to be a respectable alpha. The truth of it hung between them. No political maneuvering, no manipulation, just facts and consequences laid bare. If I testify, Marcus will fight back. He'll try to kill me to silence the testimony. Probably, which is why we extract you to Silvercrest first. Build the case. Present it at Alpha Council with full security. You testify from a position of strength, not vulnerability. And the mate bond. We deal with that after Marcus is handled, one crisis at a time. She almost smiled. Slight quirk at the corner of her mouth quickly suppressed. You make it sound simple. It's not. It's dangerous and complicated, and there's a dozen ways it could go wrong. But it's better than drinking poison every morning and waiting to die. Rowan stood, movement careful, conserving energy. Her eyes met his, and for the first time since the mate bond snapped, she didn't look away. All right, I'll testify, but on my terms. I control when and how. And if at any point I decide the risk is too great, I walk away. No arguments. Fair terms. She reached for something on the shelf, a small bottle brown glass cork stopper. The poison. She held it for a moment, weight of 6 years in that small container. Then she handed it to Cade. I'll need a few days to prepare myself. Withdrawal is going to be brutal. We'll get you through it. Dr. Chen will supervise. My team will protect you. And I'll be there if you want. Why would I want that? Because facing demons is easier with someone beside you, even if that someone is your unwanted mate. This time she did smile, genuine expression brief as sunrise. Especially if it's the unwanted mate, at least you'll be motivated to keep me alive. The plan formed quickly. Official story, Rowan needed specialized medical treatment not available in Pine Haven. Cade was extending courtesy by providing transport to Silvercrest's facilities. Marcus could hardly refuse without appearing to deny his pack member necessary care. Unofficial reality extraction under diplomatic cover. Get Rowan out before Marcus realized what was happening, before the investigation became obvious, before anyone else got killed. Hayes coordinated logistics. Connor assembled security detail. Dr. Chen prepared medical protocols for poison withdrawal. Everything moving forward with military precision. But wars, Cade knew, rarely went according to plan. The enemy always got a vote, and Marcus was nothing if not strategic. The blow came at sunset, a formal request delivered by Beta Morrison. Alpha Griffin wished to speak with the AlphaKing regarding the Omega Rowan. Urgent matter of pack business. Cade met Marcus in the conference room neutral territory. The other Alpha's mask was firmly in place, but cracks showed at the edges. Stress, anger, fear carefully controlled. I understand you have offered medical transport to Rowan. Generous of you, but unnecessary. We can handle her care here. Dr. Chen believes specialized treatment would benefit her. I'm simply facilitating that treatment. Dr. Chen exceeded her authority. Rowan is my pack member. My responsibility. I'll determine what care she needs. The possessive phrasing was deliberate. This wasn't about medical care. This was about control, about keeping Rowan where Marcus could monitor her. Use her, silence her if necessary. Rowan has the right to seek treatment from any facility she chooses. Or are you suggesting you deny her that right? Marcus's jaw tightened. I'm suggesting that removing a pack member from their home during medical crisis is questionable judgment, particularly when that pack member is vulnerable. You mean particularly when that pack member knows something you don't want revealed? The pretense shattered. Marcus stood chair, scraping back. Be careful what you accuse me of, King. I've operated within law. I've given you full cooperation during this inspection. If you're implying impropriety, make formal charges or retract the accusation. Cade remained seated, projected calm he didn't entirely feel. I'm implying nothing, I'm stating facts. Rowan needs treatment, I'm providing it. Unless you have legal grounds to prevent her departure, she leaves with me tomorrow morning. We'll see about that. The threat was barely veiled. Marcus stormed out, leaving Cade and Hayes alone in the conference room. The war had started. Now they needed to survive the first battle. Hayes checked his weapon. He's going to move tonight. Try to eliminate her before we extract. Increase security, full combat protocols. Nobody sleeps until we're airborne tomorrow. And if he comes at her anyway, then we find out how far Marcus is willing to go to protect his secrets. The answer came 3 hours later. Rowan's workshop caught fire. Fast-moving blaze that consumed the structure in minutes. By the time pack members responded, the building was ash and wreckage. Cade stood at the perimeter, watching flames die to embers. Beside him, Hayes held a soot-stained jacket, found 20 feet from the structure. Rowan was wearing it this afternoon, but no body. Marcus appeared playing concerned alpha. Tragic accident, old wiring perhaps. We'll investigate thoroughly, of course. Of course. The performance was almost convincing. Almost. If Cade hadn't known exactly what Marcus was capable of, he might have believed the concern was genuine. Connor emerged from the darkness, found her, alive, unconscious from smoke inhalation, but alive. Dr. Chen has her in medical. Marcus's expression flickered. Surprise, disappointment, quickly masked. Wonderful news. I'll check on her immediately. That won't be necessary. She's under medical quarantine. Smoke exposure can be dangerous, Dr. Chen's orders. The lie sat between them, both knowing it was a lie, both pretending otherwise. Marcus nodded slowly, calculating his next move. Tomorrow morning, we leave at 0800. Have your beta-prepared departure documentation. If she's well enough to travel, she will be. The helicopter lifted off exactly on schedule. Rowan strapped into the medical transport seat, oxygen mask covering the lower half of her face. Dr. Chen monitoring vitals. Connor and 4 warriors forming defensive perimeter. Hayes co-piloting. Cade watched Pine Haven shrink beneath them. Marcus stood in the clearing, face turned up toward the departing aircraft. Even from this distance, the fury was visible. The realization that his leverage was escaping, his control slipping, his secrets threatening exposure. This was only the beginning. Marcus would fight back, call in favors, mobilize allies, try to discredit anything Rowan testified to. The political battle would be brutal. The stakes were life and death for more than just one Omega. But wars were won by soldiers willing to fight them. And Cade Blackwood had just declared his side. Rowan's eyes opened behind the oxygen mask, met his across the narrow cabin. Fear still present, doubt, exhaustion. But something else too, something that might become trust given time and proof. He held her gaze, unspoken promise passing between them. I've got you, you're safe now. Whatever comes next, we face it together. She nodded once, small gesture. Acceptance of temporary alliance, if not permanent bond. It was enough, for now. Montana mountains rose ahead, Silvercrest Fortress emerging from morning mist. Home territory, defensible ground, the place where they'd build the case that would bring down Marcus Griffin and change the world for every Omega still hiding in fear. The helicopter banked into final approach. Cade's phone buzzed. Message from Hayes. Council meeting in 72 hours. Marcus has called for emergency session. He's making his move. Good. Let him. Every move he made now would be documented. Every threat recorded. Every mistake cataloged for eventual prosecution. The game had begun in earnest, and Cade intended to win. Silvercrest Medical Wing smelled like antiseptic in mountain air filtered through ventilation systems designed to prevent scent contamination. Rowan occupied a private room on the secure floor monitors, tracking vitals that fluctuated between concerning and critical. 72 hours until the Alpha Council convened. 72 hours to prepare testimony that would either bring down a murderer or get them all killed trying. Cade stood at the observation window watching Dr. Rebecca Morse work. The physician was 53, former military medic who'd seen combat injuries that made textbook medicine look quaint. She'd examined Rowan for 6 hours straight after extraction, running every test available and inventing a few that weren't. The preliminary results covered Cade's desk in damning detail. Liver enzymes elevated to lethal levels, kidney function declining hour by hour, bone scans showing deterioration consistent with decades of calcium leaching, neurological tests revealing damage that might never fully heal. 6 years of daily poisoning compressed into medical terminology that translated to one simple truth: Rowan was dying, and stopping the poison might kill her faster than continuing it. Withdrawal symptoms started 18 hours post-extraction, violent tremors that required restraints, fever spiking to 105 degrees, vomiting that produced traces of blood and tissue. Her body had adapted to the poison-built dependencies that made it simultaneously killing her and keeping her alive. Removing the toxin meant forcing every system to recalibrate without the chemical crutch it had learned to need. Dr. Morse emerged from the room, stripping contaminated gloves. She's stable, for now, but the next 48 hours are critical. Her body's trying to heal and detoxify simultaneously. It's like running a marathon while recovering from surgery. Prognosis: if she survives withdrawal, 6 to 12 months recovery minimum. Permanent damage to liver and kidneys likely. Reduced bone density will require ongoing treatment. Neurological effects are unpredictable. She might regain full cognitive function. She might not. And if she doesn't survive withdrawal, then Marcus wins. She dies, testimony dies with her, and 23 murdered Alphas never get justice. Hayes entered carrying updated intelligence reports, the kind that arrived in sealed folders marked eyes only. Council meeting confirmed for 48 hours from now. 15 major pack Alphas attending. Marcus has been working the phones, building his coalition. How many votes does he control? 7 confirmed traditionalists. Another 3 leaning his direction. He needs 11 to block any legislation. Needs unanimous vote to face execution charges, which means we need to flip at least 1 traditionalist, or prove his guilt so thoroughly that even his allies abandon him. Connor appeared in the doorway, tablet in hand, displaying surveillance footage. We've got movement. 3 wolves departed Marcus's territory 6 hours ago, heading east toward Wyoming. Running facial recognition now. The images cycled through. 2 males, 1 female, all combat age, all moving with the controlled efficiency of trained operatives. Connor's software matched faces to pack registries, pulling up identification and history. First male, Brett Anderson, 32, former military. Specialty in long-range elimination. Second male, Kyle Morrison, 28, explosives training. Female, Sarah Devlin, 35, intelligence operations. Marcus is sending assassins. Hayes studied the routes marked on the tactical display. They're not coming here. Trajectory suggests they're heading to Silver Creek, Wyoming, where Rowan's family is, where her brothers still think she's dead. Leverage play. Marcus threatens the family, forces Rowan to recant testimony, or he eliminates them, removes any corroborating witnesses to events 6 years ago. Cade's jaw tightened. Intercept team, full combat authorization. Take them alive if possible, dead if necessary, but they don't reach Silver Creek. Already scrambled. ETA to intercept point in 3 hours. The pieces were moving. Marcus making his play, trying to eliminate threats before council convened. Standard tactical doctrine when facing superior forces, attack the weak points. Rowan was weak point 1. Her family was weak point 2. The question was what else Marcus considered vulnerable and how far he'd go to protect his conspiracy. The answer arrived 20 minutes later via encrypted message from an unknown sender. Cade's secure phone buzzed once. Single text, no identifying information. You have evidence? I have more. Meet me. Coordinates attached. Hayes read over his shoulder. Trap? Probably. But also potentially intelligence from inside Marcus's operation. Someone wanting to flip. Or someone setting up ambush. Connor traced the signal origin. Bounced through 6 proxy servers. Originated somewhere in Colorado. Can't narrow it further without more time. What do the coordinates point to? Neutral territory. Rest stop off Interstate 25. 50 miles from here. Public location. Hard to stage ambush without witnesses. Hard, not impossible. Cade weighed options. Stay safe and miss potential intelligence. Or take calculated risk and possibly gain the evidence needed to guarantee conviction. The mathematics of warfare always came down to acceptable losses versus strategic gains. I'm going. Hayes Connor, 4-man team. Full tactical load. Anything feels wrong, we extract immediately. The rest stop materialized from highway darkness like an oasis of fluorescent light. 18-wheelers idled in the truck section. Families used bathrooms and vending machines in the main building. Normal American infrastructure at 2 in the morning populated by the kinds of people who traveled odd hours for legitimate reasons. Cade's team arrived in 2 vehicles. Civilian appearance concealing military-grade preparation. Connor ran counter-surveillance from the second vehicle, while Hayes accompanied Cade into the building proper. The coordinates pointed to a specific table in the 24-hour restaurant section. Corner booth with sight lines to all entrances. The man waiting there looked like he'd aged a decade in 6 years. Declan Stone, 28 years old, wearing guilt like a second skin. The alpha who'd nearly claimed Rowan during the frenzy. The soldier who'd been following orders he didn't understand. The wolf who'd spent 6 years believing he'd contributed to murder. He stood when Cade approached. Formal respect mixed with barely contained desperation. AlphaKing, thank you for meeting me. You have 30 seconds to convince me this isn't an ambush before my team neutralizes you. Declan didn't flinch, just placed both hands flat on the table, universal gesture of non-aggression. I came to testify about what Marcus did 6 years ago, about how he used Alpha Command to trigger the frenzy, about how he murdered Alpha Thorn. Why now? Why not 6 years ago when it happened? Because 6 years ago I didn't understand what had been done to me. I thought the frenzy was my fault. Natural response to true Omega scent. It wasn't until last month when I started having flashbacks that I realized something was wrong. Flashbacks. Declan's hands trembled slightly. Memories don't match my actions. I remember wanting to pursue Rowan, but I also remember not wanting to. Like my body was being controlled by someone else. Like I was passenger in my own skin. Alpha Command leaves traces, neurological markers that fade over time but never completely disappear. I got tested, paid a private physician in Nevada to run the blood work. Results showed elevated command markers. 6 years later, still detectable. That's not natural alpha response. That's external manipulation. Hayes moved closer, positioning himself for rapid intervention if needed. You're saying Marcus commanded the frenzy. I'm saying I remember his voice in my head. Right before Rowan's scent manifested, commanding pursuit, commanding violence, commanding us to eliminate Alpha Thorn. At the time, I thought it was my own instinct. Now I know better. Can you prove it? Declan produced a data chip. 7 other alphas from that night got tested. All showed command markers. All agreed to testify if granted immunity. We were weapons. Marcus pulled the trigger. The evidence was circumstantial. Blood tests showing elevated markers proved command had been used, but not definitively that Marcus was the source. Defense lawyers would argue natural pack hierarchy, alpha dominance, establishing order during chaos. Reasonable doubt built into biological reality. But combined with Dr. Chen's evidence, the financial records, the pattern of deaths, and Rowan's testimony, it created comprehensive picture. Not just one piece, entire puzzle. Testifying means making yourself a target. Marcus will come after you. He's already tried. 3 attempts in the last month. Why do you think I'm meeting you in public at 2 a.m. instead of walking into Silvercrest during daylight? What do you want in exchange? Declan's expression shifted. Less desperation, more determination. I want to make it right. I want Alpha Thorne's daughter to know that some of us who hurt her are trying to fix it. And I want Marcus to pay for what he did, for turning good soldiers into murderers. The mathematics changed. With Declan's testimony, they had alpha witnesses to command manipulation. With the other 7 willing to cooperate, they had pattern. With medical evidence backing it up, they had scientific proof. The case was no longer circumstantial. It was comprehensive. Council meets in 42 hours. Be in Silvercrest by dawn tomorrow. My team will provide security and debriefing. There's one more thing. Marcus is planning something for the council meeting. I don't know details, but I overheard communication. He has wolves positioned. Contingency plan if testimony goes against him. Assassination? Maybe, or hostage situation. Or mass violence. He's desperate. Desperate men do stupid things. They also do dangerous things. Cade followed that intelligence for tactical planning. Increased security at council chambers. Multiple contingency protocols. Prepare for worst-case scenarios while hoping for best-case outcomes. The drive back to Silvercrest consumed 2 hours of mountain darkness. Cade spent it reviewing Declan's evidence, cross-referencing with existing files, building the prosecution strategy that would present to council. The case was strong, getting stronger. But Marcus had proven himself adaptable and ruthless. Underestimating him would be fatal. Dawn brought news from the intercept team. 3 targets neutralized, 2 dead in firefight, 1 captured. Sarah Devlin was currently in Silvercrest detention, refusing to talk, but her mere presence confirming Marcus's willingness to use lethal force against potential witnesses. Connor ran her background while Cade observed through one-way glass. Former intelligence operative dishonorably discharged for ethics violations. Worked as mercenary for 5 years. Excellent combat record. 0 moral compunctions about target selection. She knows she's facing execution charges for attempted murder of protected witnesses. But she's not talking. Because Marcus has leverage. Something she values more than her own life. Family. Connor pulled up files. Daughter, age 7, lives with Devlin's parents in Nevada. Clean, no PAC affiliation. Civilian. Marcus is holding a child hostage to ensure silence. The realization twisted something in Cade's gut. Using children as leverage violated every honor code wolves live by. It confirmed Marcus's complete moral bankruptcy, and it gave them an opening. Extract the daughter. Full security detail. Once she's safe, offered Devlin immunity in exchange for testimony. Hayes nodded. Already coordinating with Nevada authorities. Extraction team moves in 2 hours. The pieces kept falling into position. Evidence accumulating. Witnesses cooperating. Case building toward the kind of comprehensive prosecution that left no room for reasonable doubt. But something nagged at Cade's tactical sense. The feeling that Marcus had one more move. One final contingency that hadn't revealed itself yet. Rowan's condition stabilized by hour 60. Temperature dropped to normal. Tremors subsided to manageable levels. Color began returning to skin that had been gray for years. Her body was healing slowly and painfully, but healing. Dr. Morse cautiously upgraded prognosis from critical to serious. Cade found her sitting up when he visited. First time since extraction, she'd been conscious and lucid for extended period. The oxygen mask was gone, replaced by nasal cannula. Monitors beeped steady rhythm instead of frantic alerts. "You look better." Her voice came out raspy from intubation. "I feel like I was poisoned for 6 years and then had every toxin forcibly removed." Because that's exactly what happened. The bite of humor was good sign, personality returning as body stabilized. Cade pulled a chair to the bedside, maintaining careful distance. Mate bond hummed beneath his skin, constant awareness of her presence and condition. She felt it too from the way her eyes tracked his movements. Council meets tomorrow. We have strong case, multiple witnesses, comprehensive evidence. But I need to know if you're ready to testify. About what Marcus did? Yes. About what I am? That's harder. You don't have to reveal your designation publicly. We can testify to the facts of your father's murder without exposing you to claiming risk. Rowan shook her head. No, if I'm doing this, I'm doing it completely. No half measures. Marcus will try to discredit me. Call me mentally unstable from the poison. Claim I'm lying for attention or revenge. The only way to prove I'm telling the truth is to show why I poisoned myself in the first place. That means releasing your scent in a room full of alphas. I'm aware. But I'm also aware that my father died trying to pass protection laws that would prevent exactly this situation. If my testimony helps pass those laws, then exposure is worth it. The courage in her voice matched her father's. Thomas Thorne had died fighting for what was right. His daughter was choosing to continue that fight, knowing the cost. Legacy written in sacrifice and determination. I'll have security positioned to prevent any claiming attempt. You'll be protected. I know. Because you're my mate, and that supersedes claiming instinct. Even if we haven't formalized the bond. About that, we should discuss what happens after, once Marcus is dealt with and the laws pass. What you want regarding the mate bond? Rowan met his gaze steadily. What I want is choice. Real choice, not biological imperative disguised as destiny. I've spent 6 years fighting for control of my own body. I won't give that up. Not even for a mate bond. I'm not asking you to. I'm saying that when you're ready, if you're ever ready, the bond is there. But it's your choice to accept or reject it. No pressure, no expectations. And if I reject it, that won't hurt you. It'll hurt. Bond rejection is painful for both parties. But it's survivable. And more importantly, it's your right. She studied him for a long moment. Most alphas wouldn't accept that. Most would use the bond to claim me regardless of my wishes. Most alphas aren't AlphaKing. And most alphas haven't seen what happens when wolves abuse power and take choice away from others. Your father fought to change that. I'm finishing what he started. The truth of it sat between them. Not romance or destiny or biological imperative. Just two wolves choosing to do what was right even when it was hard. Even when it cost them personally. Tomorrow then, I testify. We take down Marcus. And after that, we figure out what comes next. After that, you heal. You live. You make choices because you want to, not because you have to. Everything else is secondary. Hayes appeared in the doorway. Sir, Declan Stone just arrived with the other 7 witnesses. They're in debriefing now, and Nevada team reports successful extraction of Devlin's daughter. Child is safe. Devlin is ready to talk. The final pieces clicking into place. Witnesses assembled, evidence compiled, security protocols established. Everything positioned for tomorrow's confrontation. Cade stood. Rest. Tomorrow will be hardest day, but it's also the day we win. Rowan's hand caught his wrist. Unexpected contact, first deliberate touch since the mate bond snapped. Her fingers were cold from poor circulation, but grip was firm. Thank you for destroying my poison, for giving me a chance to live instead of just survive. He covered her hand with his. You're welcome. Now finish healing so you can help me change the world. The council chamber was built like a war room masquerading as courtroom. Circular seating arrangement for 15 major alphas with overflow capacity for 200 observers. Stone walls thick enough to contain violence if proceedings turn physical. Security checkpoints at every entrance. Cameras recording everything for legal record and historical documentation. Cade arrived 2 hours before scheduled start. Hayes and Connor supervised final security sweep while he reviewed notes one last time. The prosecution strategy was straightforward. An established pattern-present evidence, call witnesses, force Marcus to defend the indefensible. Then push for not just guilty verdict, but also passage of comprehensive Omega protection laws that would prevent future murders disguised as tradition. The alphas began arriving at 0900. Elder Morrison, first 70 years old and walking with a cane that disguised a blade. California's Alpha Sterling, next 52, an outspoken reformer. Then the traditionalists, Marcus's allies wolves, who'd benefited from his political maneuvering and owed him loyalty. 7 confirmed votes in his column. 8 if you counted Marcus himself. Marcus entered last, calculated move making everyone wait for him. He wore formal attire playing the role of wronged alpha defending his honor. The mask was firmly in place. Reasonable, concerned, confident he'd weather whatever accusations came his way. The 2 men's eyes met across the chamber. Silent acknowledgement that today would end with one of them destroyed. Political death or literal death. Stakes couldn't be higher. Morrison called the session to order at 1000 hours exactly. The ancient Alpha might move slowly, but his mind was sharp as the blade hidden in his cane. This council was convened to address two matters. First, charges against Alpha Marcus Griffin of conspiracy, murder, and treason. Second, proposed Omega protection legislation. Both matters require full council attention and vote. AlphaKing Blackwood, you filed the charges. Present your case. Cade stood. Projection screens activated, displaying the first evidence timeline of suspicious Alpha deaths over 10 years. 23 names, 23 dates, 23 locations, all marked on territorial map, all connected to one wolf. For a decade, Alphas have died under suspicious circumstances. Official investigations ruled these deaths accidental or natural. But when you examine the pattern, a different picture emerges. 23 Alphas, all reformers, all advocating for policy changes that threaten traditional power structures. All died while Alpha Marcus Griffin was present at or near the location. Marcus stood smoothly. Circumstantial correlation. I travel frequently as part of my duties. Of course, I've been present at multiple territories. That proves nothing except that I'm active in council affairs. Then explain this. Connor triggered the next display. Financial records, shell companies, payments to mercenaries, money trail connecting Marcus's accounts to hired killers over multiple years. The evidence was dense, complex, but undeniable. Someone had paid for assassinations. That someone's money came from Marcus's network. These are falsified, clearly manufactured to frame me. I demand independent audit. Already done. 3 separate forensic accountants verified the transactions. The money is real. The payments are real. The hired killers are real. One of them is currently in our detention facility, ready to testify that you hired her to eliminate potential witnesses. The chamber erupted in murmurs. Alphas conferring with their advisors. Marcus's allies looking less certain. The evidence was hitting harder than expected, catching even wolves who'd planned to support him off guard. Morrison gavelled for silence. We will hear testimony. Alpha Blackwood, call your first witness. Declan Stone entered the chamber like a man walking to his execution. In many ways he was. Testifying meant admitting his own role in Alpha Thorne's death, accepting responsibility even as he explained the external manipulation. No guarantee counsel would grant immunity rather than punishment. He took the witness position, swore oath on Alpha honor, began speaking with a kind of quiet intensity that came from years of carrying guilt. 6 years ago, I was 22, soldier in good standing, followed orders without question. The night of Silver Creek's summer solstice celebration, I was visiting on leave. Alpha Thorne was hosting. Everything was normal until the true Omega's scent manifested. The frenzy that followed wasn't normal. I've been around Omegas in heat, even worked security for previous true Omega situations. Those created attraction, interest. This was compulsion, like someone reached into my brain and forced me to pursue, to claim, to kill anyone who stood in my way. I attacked my own friend, tackled Alpha Thorne's son, who was trying to protect his sister. Would have killed him if the girl hadn't run, chased her into the forest, caught her. Would have forced a bond if her other brother hadn't intervened. The whole time some part of me was screaming that this was wrong, that I didn't want this. But my body wasn't responding to my mind. It was responding to someone else's command. Marcus rose. This is fantasy, guilt-driven delusion. He participated in violence, can't accept responsibility, so he blames external forces. Declan didn't break eye contact with the council. I got tested last month. Blood work showed elevated alpha command markers. 6 years after the incident, still detectable. That's not natural frenzy response. That's manipulation. Cade triggered the next display. Medical test results. Not just Declan's. All 7 alphas from that night. Every single one showed command markers. Statistical impossibility for natural frenzy to leave that kind of uniform trace. 7 alphas. 7 positive tests, 7 witnesses to the same external command. That's not delusion, that's pattern. The other 6 alphas entered as a group, confirmed Declan's testimony, described the same sense of compulsion, the feeling of being passenger in their own bodies. Some broke down, some spoke with rage. All corroborated the core truth Marcus had used Alpha Command to trigger frenzy. to create chaos, to murder Alpha Thorn under cover of biological inevitability. Morrison leaned forward. This is serious accusation. Alpha Command used this way violates our most sacred laws. If true, it constitutes not just murder, but corruption of our very nature. Which is why we have one more witness. Someone who was at the center of the frenzy. Someone who survived and has been hiding for 6 years because she knew Marcus would kill her to protect his secret. The chamber doors open. Rowan entered flanked by security detail. She wore simple clothes, nothing formal or fancy. Her color was better after 3 days of treatment, but still showed signs of years of poisoning. She moved carefully, conserving energy, but her eyes were clear, determined. The true Omega scent hit the chamber like a wave. Sweet, intoxicating, undeniable. Every unmated alpha in the room reacted. Bodies tensing, pupils dilating, biological response activating exactly as designed. But no one moved, because Cade stood beside her mate bond, visible in how they oriented toward each other. Because Morrison's security detail had weapons ready. Because this was council chamber, not wilderness, and social controls mattered more than instinct. State your name for the record. Rowan Thorn, daughter of Alpha Thomas Thorn. True Omega, survivor of the Silver Creek, claiming frenzy. Marcus's mask finally cracked. Shock, fear, rage. The girl he'd believed dead standing alive and testifying. His entire conspiracy exposed by the one witness he'd thought and eliminated. Rowan began speaking, calm, clear, recounting the night 6 years ago, her father's warnings in the weeks beforehand, his suspicions about Marcus. The recorder he'd given her, asking her to keep it running during the celebration because he expected trouble. The audio recording played over chamber speakers. Marcus's voice. Thomas's voice. The confrontation minutes before the frenzy, enough to destroy any remaining doubt about premeditation. My father gave this to me as I ran, told me Marcus did this, told me to survive and tell someone. Anyone. I've been carrying it for 6 years, poisoning myself to stay hidden, waiting for someone powerful enough to stand against Marcus. She turned to face Marcus directly. You murdered my father. You manipulated good soldiers into becoming killers. You've been systematically eliminating anyone who threatened your power, and you're going to pay for all of it. The chamber exploded, not physically, politically. Marcus's allies scrambling to distance themselves. Traditionalists who'd supported him suddenly remembering prior commitments. The coalition collapsing in real time as rats fled the sinking ship. Marcus stood alone, isolated, mask completely gone. This is lies manipulation. The king is using this Omega to eliminate opposition to his radical policies. The evidence proves otherwise. Financial records, medical tests, witness testimony, audio recording of your own voice. 23 dead alphas in one true Omega who survived your attempt to murder her and her father. The council will now vote on guilt. Morrison gavelled for order, all in favor of finding Marcus Griffin guilty of conspiracy to murder, use of illegal Alpha Command, and treason against pack law. 14 hands rose. Every Alpha except Marcus himself. Unanimous except for the accused. Verdict rendered. Sentence to be determined by AlphaKing per council law. Alpha Blackwood. What punishment do you decree? Cade stood. He could feel the weight of history. Thomas Thorne's unfinished work. 23 murdered alphas. Rowan's 6 years of poisoned survival. All of it culminating in this moment. Traditional punishment for these crimes is execution. Death for murder, death for treason, swift justice for heinous acts. But I reject that punishment. Execution would make Marcus a martyr. Would allow him to escape the full weight of his crimes. Would let him die without confronting what he's destroyed. Instead, life imprisonment, silver chains to prevent shifting, solitary confinement, no pack, no contact, no freedom. He lives knowing every alpha he murdered that is remembered with honor while he rots in a cell. He lives watching the reforms he fought against become law. He lives powerless, which is what he feared most. The sentence was harsh, brutal, some might say cruel, but it fit the crime. Marcus had taken lives and freedom. Now his life and freedom were forfeited, not through quick death, but through decades of consequences. Marcus lunged, not at Cade, at Rowan. Last desperate attempt to eliminate the witness who destroyed him. He shifted mid-leap wolf form, erupting with claws extended toward her throat. Three things happened simultaneously. Cade shifted, intercepting the attack with superior speed. Hayes's bullet took Marcus in the shoulder, slowing but not stopping his momentum. And Declan, moving from pure instinct, threw himself between Rowan and the incoming threat. The impact sent all four wolves tumbling, claws raked, teeth snapped, blood splattered. In the chaos, Marcus's focus stayed fixed on Rowan. Kill the witness. Eliminate the threat. Nothing else mattered. Cade's jaws closed on Marcus's throat. Not killing bite. Control hold. Forcing submission through superior strength and position. The older Alpha struggled, but physics and power differential made resistance futile. Morrison's voice cut through the violence. Stand down. All participants cease combat immediately. The command of an elder Alpha carried weight even in midst of battle. Cade released his hold, shifted back to human form. Blood ran down his shoulder from where Marcus's claws had connected, but the wound was superficial. Marcus lay on the floor, silver chains being locked into place by security. His face was twisted with hate and rage. This isn't over. Others believe as I do. Others will continue the fight. Then they'll join you in prison. Every conspirator, every assassin, every wolf who chose murder over honor. We're done with your kind. Rowan stood behind the protective wall of security unharmed. Declan wasn't as fortunate. Deep gashes across his chest where he'd taken the blow meant for her. He was still conscious, still breathing, but the wounds were severe. Dr. Morse and her team rushed forward with medical equipment. Declan waved them off. Her first. Make sure she's okay. I'm fine. You're the one bleeding out. Then we're even. 6 years ago, I tried to hurt you. Today, I kept you safe. Balance restored. The healers worked quickly, stabilized Declan's condition. Confirmed Rowan was physically unharmed, though shaken by the violence. Cade submitted to examination of his own wounds, minor enough to be dealt with later. Morrison gavelled again. This council stands in brief recess. We will reconvene in 1 hour to address the second matter, Omega protection legislation. The break allowed cleanup of blood and chaos, allowed witnesses to be escorted out, allowed Marcus to be transferred to secure holding for transport to the silent cell, the prison designed specifically for alpha criminals too dangerous to hold in standard facilities. Cade found Rowan in a private chamber sitting with her head in her hands, adrenaline crash hitting hard after the violence. He sat beside her, not touching, just present. You did it. You testified. Marcus is finished. Doesn't feel finished. Feels like we just started a war. We did. But it's a war worth fighting. Your father knew that. Now so do we. She looked up, eyes rimmed with tears that hadn't yet fallen. What happens now, to me, to us now? The council votes on the laws. If they pass, true Omegas get protection, get choice, get freedom. You get to live without poisoning yourself, without hiding, without fear. And the mate bond. We deal with that later, after you heal, after you've had time to make real choice, not one forced by crisis and violence. Rowan nodded slowly. Later, when I'm strong enough to choose for myself rather than accepting because I'm too tired to fight anymore. The council reconvened with palpable tension. Violence in the chamber had reminded everyone that these weren't academic debates. These were life and death matters where wolves died and futures hung in balance. Morrison addressed the assembly. We've seen today the consequences of unchecked power, of tradition twisted to serve personal ambition. The question before us now, do we codify protections to prevent such abuses, or do we maintain status quo that allowed them to flourish? Alpha Sterling stood first. California votes yes. We've seen enough violence, enough claiming frenzies, enough true Omegas forced into bonds against their will. The proposed laws are necessary and overdue. The traditionalists were in disarray. Their leader in prison, their coalition exposed as murderous conspiracy. Several abstained rather than vote against protections. Others, recognizing political realities, switched positions to avoid being associated with Marcus's crimes. When Morrison called the vote, 11 of 15 Alphas supported the comprehensive Omega protection legislation, claiming frenzies illegal, forced bonding a capital crime. True Omegas granted absolute right to refuse any Alpha. Pack Alphas personally responsible for protection. Support systems established. The laws passed. Thomas Thorne's dream realized 6 years after his death. Rowan's sacrifice given meaning. 23 murdered alphas honored through the reforms they died trying to establish. Morrison struck the gavel. Let it be recorded. This day the Alpha Council establishes new precedent. Power must serve protection, not oppression. Strength must defend the vulnerable, not exploit them. Any wolf who violates these principles will face the full weight of pack law. The chamber erupted in applause. Not unanimous. Some wolves still clung to traditional views. But majority had spoken. Change was coming. Not perfect, not complete, but real. Cade found Rowan afterwards standing before the memorial wall where council honored fallen alphas. Fresh plaque being installed, Thomas Thorne, who gave his life so others could choose their own. Below it, another name added, and his daughter Rowan, who survived to finish his work. She traced the letters with her fingers. He would have been proud. Not of the violence, but of this, of laws changing, of future true Omegas having choices he wanted me to have. He'd be proud of you for surviving, for testifying, for being brave enough to stop hiding. I didn't feel brave. I felt terrified. Bravery is an absence of fear. It's doing what's right despite the fear. You chose right. Every time it mattered, you chose right. Morrison approached, leaning on his cane. Miss Thorne, you honored your father today. Honored all of us. The reforms we passed will save lives, prevent tragedies, change our world for the better. Thank you, Elder Alpha. The old wolf's eyes sharpened. One more thing. Your testimony earned you respect. Your survival earned you admiration. But your choice to stop poisoning yourself to live rather than hide, that earned you power. Use it well. Help us make these new laws work. I will. I promise. Morrison nodded and moved away. Hayes and Connor approached with final reports. Security sweeping for any remaining Marcus loyalists. Intelligence confirming complete collapse of his conspiracy network. Assassins neutralized. Witnesses protected. Case closed. Except it wasn't really closed. Wounds would take time to heal. Trust would take longer to rebuild. True Omegas across territories would need years to understand that laws had changed, that safety was possible. The work was just beginning. But today was victory. Imperfect, costly, but real. The kind of victory that made all the sacrifice worthwhile. Cade and Rowan stood together before the memorial as other council members departed. Not touching, not yet ready for that level of connection, but standing side by side. Allies in the fight they'd both chosen. Partners in the work ahead. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, implementing the laws, training enforcement, changing cultural attitudes that had persisted for generations, building systems that protected without controlling. But tomorrow was tomorrow. Today they'd won. Marcus was imprisoned. Laws were passed. Thomas Thorne's legacy secured. Rowan could live without poison. True Omegas across territories could hope for futures built on choice rather than fear. It was enough. For now, it was enough. The Silent Cell received its newest prisoner at 0300 when darkness still owned the Montana mountains. Marcus Griffin arrived in silver chains, unconscious from sedatives, stripped of everything except the crimes that would define his remaining years. The facility was built into granite bedrock, reinforced with magic older than modern pack law. Wolves who entered never left. Not alive. Cade watched the transport vehicle disappear into the mountain. One threat neutralized. 20 others still circling in the dark, waiting for opportunity. Marcus had operated through networks and influence. Those networks didn't dissolve overnight just because their architect was imprisoned. Connor appeared with updated threat assessment, intercepted communications from 7 territories. Traditionalist cells expressing outrage over the verdict and new laws. 3 are organizing peaceful protests. 4 are discussing more direct action. Define direct action. The kind that it involves silver bullets in claiming frenzies. They see the laws as attack on alpha nature. Some are willing to disproving their point. Then we make sure they fail before they get martyrdom. Double security on all Omega facilities. Increase patrols in reform-friendly territories. And Connor, anyone making credible threats gets detained. I'm not waiting for body count before responding. The war hadn't ended with Marcus's conviction. It had merely entered new phase. Ideology persisted even when individuals fell. Changing laws was one thing. Changing hearts and minds required different weapons. Rowan spent her first week of freedom in Silvercrest's medical wing body, slowly remembering how to function without daily poison. The physical withdrawal had ended, but psychological patterns remained. She woke at dawn reaching for bottles that weren't there, felt phantom burns in her throat where toxins used to scorch, caught herself calculating dosages before remembering she didn't need them anymore. Dr. Morse monitored progress with cautious optimism. Liver enzymes dropping to manageable levels, kidney function improving incrementally. Bone density would take months to rebuild, maybe years. Neurological tests showed promising signs of healing. The body wanted to survive. It just needed time and support. Kate visited daily, never pushing, never demanding, just present. Sometimes they talked about implementation strategies for the new laws. Sometimes they sat in companionable silence. Always he maintained careful distance, respecting the boundaries she'd established. Mate bond hummed between them like electric current, but neither acknowledged it directly. Week 2 brought visitors. Rowan's brothers arrived from Wyoming, faces carved from shock and grief and relief. Ash and River Thorn had spent 6 years believing their sister dead, guilt eating them alive for failing to protect her. Now she sat before them alive, but changed, bearing scars they couldn't see, but understood existed. Ash spoke first, voice breaking. "We thought we'd lost you. Thought the frenzy killed you like it killed Dad. I survived. Barely. Not in ways I'm proud of." River's hands clenched. "If we'd known you were alive, hiding in Marcus's territory while you would have tried to rescue me and gotten killed." Marcus was too powerful, too protected. It took the AlphaKing to bring him down. The reunion was bittersweet. Joy at restored connection mixed with grief for years lost. Questions about their mother, dead from heartbreak 2 years after the frenzy. Guilt multiplying in every direction. But also hope. Fragile, intentive, but real. Family reconstructed from fragments. They stayed 3 days, helped Rowan sort through memories both wanted and unwanted. Made plans for memorial service, honoring Thomas Thorne properly now the truth was known. Promised to support whatever choices she made going forward, including regarding the mate bond with the AlphaKing. Declan's recovery took longer. The wounds from Marcus's attack had been deep, compounded by his own guilt-driven recklessness in interposing himself as shield. Dr. Morse spent hours in surgery repairing damage to chest muscles and ribs. The physical healing was straightforward, the emotional healing more complex. Cade found him in the rehabilitation wing, working through painful exercises despite protests from nursing staff. The younger Alpha moved with determination that bordered on desperation, trying to prove something, to himself or others unclear. "You should rest. Pushing too hard risks permanent damage." Declan didn't stop the movements. "Need to be ready. In case Marcus's allies come. In case Rowan needs protection again. She has protection. Entire pack of warriors trained specifically for this. Doesn't matter, I owe her. Owed her father. 6 years I've been paying that debt, can't stop now." The mathematics of guilt didn't work that way. Saving Rowan once didn't erase attempted claiming 6 years prior. But humans, wolves, all thinking creatures needed to believe redemption was possible through action. Denying Declan that belief would be cruel. Hayes needs experienced soldiers for the Omega Protection Unit he's building. Training program starts next month. Position is yours if you want it. Declan finally paused, teaching other alphas how to resist command manipulation, how to protect instead of claim. Exactly. Using your experience for something constructive, turning what Marcus did to you into knowledge that prevents future victims. The younger alpha's expression shifted. "Less desperation, more purpose. I accept. On one condition. Name it. When traditionalists come for Rowan, because they will come, I'm on her security detail." No negotiation, agreed. But Declan, when that happens, you follow orders. No reckless heroics, no guilt-driven sacrifices. You protect her by staying alive and effective, not by dying dramatically. Understood. The conversation ended there, both wolves knowing that understanding orders and following them under pressure were different things entirely. When violence came, instinct and training would determine outcomes more than promises made during peaceful moments. Month 3 brought the first implementation challenges. packs across territories receiving new guidelines for Omega protection. Some embraced changes eagerly, others resisted with bureaucratic obstruction. A few rejected outright, citing local autonomy and traditional rights. Sterling from California reported smooth transition. His territory had already been progressive. The new laws simply codified existing practices. Other reformist alphas echoed similar experiences. But conservative territories struggled. Alphas who'd supported Marcus's coalition dragging feet on implementation, claiming resource constraints, questioning specific provisions, testing boundaries to see how far they could push before facing consequences. Hayes compiled incident reports during weekly briefing. 12 packs in open noncompliance, 7 more implementing minimal standards while ignoring spirit of the laws. 3 reported claiming frenzies that violated new prohibitions, but local authorities aren't prosecuting. Cade studied the territorial map marked with violations. Non-compliance wasn't unexpected. Changing centuries of practice required more than single council vote. It required enforcement. Examples: consequences that proved the laws had teeth. Schedule inspection tours. Start with the 12 in open non-compliance. Full security detail. Media coverage. Make it clear that defying council law means facing the AlphaKing directly. That'll antagonize traditionalists further. Good. Let them be antagonized. Let them make their moves while we're watching and prepared. Better than waiting for them to strike when we're distracted. The tours began in week 14. Cade Hayes Connor and 20 Warrior Detail, visiting resistant packs, inspecting Omega housing, reviewing protection protocols, interviewing Omegas privately to ensure no coercion or abuse, finding violations everywhere they looked. 3 alphas were removed from position for flagrant non-compliance. 2 faced criminal charges for allowing claiming frenzies. 1 attempted to bar Cade's entry entirely and ended up in detention for obstruction. The message was clear: laws weren't suggestions. Compliance wasn't optional. Resistance had consequences. But consequences bred resentment, and resentment bred violence. The attack came on day 97 during Silvercrest Winter Festival. Public celebration marking the year's end, hundreds of pack members gathered in the central square. Music and food, and the kind of normalcy that made people forget danger could arrive without warning. Rowan attended at Cade's invitation. First major public appearance since her testimony. She wore winter clothes that disguised how thin she still was, hair pulled back to reveal face that had regained color and life. Declan was part of her security detail, along with 4 other warriors trained in close protection. The explosives detonated at 2200 hours. 3 charges placed strategically around the square. Not meant to kill, meant to create chaos. Smoke and noise and panic that would scatter security and create openings. 18 attackers emerged from the confusion. Traditionalists wearing masks, carrying weapons, moving with coordinated precision. Their target was obvious: the true Omega whose testimony had destroyed their leader and enabled laws they despised. Declan saw them first. 7 seconds of warning. Enough time to move Rowan toward defensive position. Not enough time to prevent contact. The first attacker came from an unexpected angle, knife drawn and aimed at Rowan's throat. Professional technique. Kill strike designed for quick execution. Declan intercepted with his body, taking the blade in his side instead of letting it reach its target. The pain was immediate and overwhelming. Silver-coated weapon burning like acid. But he'd trained for this, fought through agony to disarm the attacker and neutralize the threat. 1 down, 17 to go. Cade arrived like an avalanche wolf form, tearing through 2 attackers before they could adjust. Hayes and Connor flanked, creating perimeter. Warriors engaged the remaining hostiles with lethal efficiency. The battle lasted 90 seconds. Felt like hours. When the smoke cleared, 13 attackers were dead. 5 captured, and Declan was bleeding out on the cobblestones, silver poisoning spreading from the wound. Dr. Morse worked on him in the field emergency protocols designed for combat injuries. But silver toxicity, compounded by the location of the wound, made prognosis grim. Blade had penetrated deep, severing major vessels. The poison was secondary problem. Blood loss was immediate crisis. Rowan knelt beside him, hands pressed uselessly against the wound. Her medical training was limited to sewing and poison, neither helpful now. She could only watch as life drained from someone who died saving her. You can't. You saved me once today. 6 years ago, you tried to hurt me, but today you saved me. That's not nothing. That's everything. Declan's breathing was labored, lungs filling with fluid, voice barely audible. Balanced, debt paid. Tell your father, when you see him, tell him I'm sorry. The light faded from his eyes, heartbeats stuttering to stillness. Dr. Morse worked for another 10 minutes, refusing to accept the obvious. But silver poisoning, combined with blood loss, left no room for miracles. Declan Stone died on the cobblestones of Silvercrest Square, 28 years old, having finally achieved the redemption he'd sought for 6 years. His last action was protection instead of harm. His last words were apology instead of excuse. His death meant something, even if the cost was too high. Rowan stood slowly, Declan's blood staining her hands. Something in her expression changed, hardened. The victim who'd spent 6 years hiding was gone. What remained was someone who'd seen too much death, who'd lost too many people to violence masquerading as tradition. She turned to face the captured attackers being restrained by warriors. 5 wolves who'd come to kill her, to prove that true Omegas were dangerous, that protection laws would lead to chaos, that tradition should triumph over progress. Her scent released, deliberate and controlled, full true Omega presence without suppression, sweet enough to drown in, powerful enough to trigger every biological instinct evolution had hardwired into alpha wolves. The 5 captives reacted instantly, bodies straining against restraints, eyes glazing with claiming imperative. Exactly the response they'd claimed was uncontrollable. Exactly the justification they'd used for opposing protection laws. But they didn't break free, didn't attack, because restraints held, because warriors kept them controlled, because social structures and conscious choice proved stronger than biological impulse. Rowan's voice cut through the square like a blade. You came here to prove true Omegas cause violence, that our existence justifies your fear, that laws protecting us will create chaos. Look at yourselves. You're experiencing the pull. The biological imperative you claim can't be resisted, and yet you're not moving. Not because the response isn't real, but because you're being held accountable. Because society is stronger than instinct when we choose to make it so. My father understood that. Declan understood that. Even Marcus understood it, which is why he had to use Alpha Command to trigger the frenzy. Natural response isn't enough to excuse murder. It never was. The words carried across the square, captured on cameras, recorded for history, a true Omega standing over the body of someone who died protecting her, proving that the danger wasn't her existence. The danger was wolves like the attackers who chose violence and blamed biology. Morrison arrived as cleanup crews began their work. The elder Alpha surveyed the carnage with eyes that had seen too much violence across too many years. 8 civilians injured in the explosions, 13 attackers dead, 1 hero fallen. The cost of progress written in blood on cobblestones. This changes things. Traditionalists crossed a line, attacking civilians, targeting a protected witness, using explosives in populated area. The council won't tolerate this. We need more than council condemnation. We need complete dismantling of these cells, root and branch. No more waiting for them to attack before we respond. Cade's tone carried the weight of decision made. Investigation into the traditionalist network intensified. Intelligence assets deployed. Informants recruited. Financial records subpoenaed. The response was comprehensive and unforgiving. Within 2 months, 47 wolves were in custody on conspiracy charges. Networks that had existed for decades were exposed and destroyed. Leaders who'd operated in shadows found themselves facing trial and imprisonment. The traditionalist movement didn't end, but its capacity for organized violence was crippled. Declan's funeral was held on a gray morning when snow fell like benediction. Full military honors, 21-gun salute. Flag presented to his parents who'd lost their son twice, once to guilt, again to redemption. Rowan spoke briefly, voice steady despite tears. He spent 6 years trying to fix a mistake, trying to balance scales that didn't work that way. But he never gave up, never stopped fighting to be better than his worst moment. That's not weakness. That's strength. That's honor. She laid a single white flower on the casket, the kind that grew wild in Wyoming mountains, the kind that had been blooming the night of the frenzy, symbol of innocence destroyed and hard-won peace achieved. Cade stood beside her throughout, not touching, but present, support without pressure. The mate bond had grown stronger over the months, impossible to ignore, but easier to coexist with. Neither had mentioned it directly since the council vote. Too much happening, too much healing required. But it was there, constant as heartbeat. After the funeral, Rowan found him in his office. Winter sunset painting the mountains in colors that didn't exist in nature. She sat without invitation, comfortable enough now to claim space in his domain. We need to talk about the bond. All right, what about it? I've been thinking. 6 months ago, you destroyed my poison, violated my autonomy in the name of saving my life. I hated you for it. Past tense, because you were right. The poison wasn't control, it was slow suicide. You gave me a chance to live instead of just survive. I'd do it again, even knowing you'd hate me for it. I know, that's why I'm ready to accept the bond. Not because I have to, not because biology demands it, but because I choose it, choose you. The words hung between them, weighted with months of careful distance and hard-earned trust. Cade stood, moved to where she sat, knelt to bring them eye level. The gesture deliberate, AlphaKing, humbling himself before someone who deserved that respect. You're sure once the bond is formalized, it's permanent. No going back. I'm sure I'm choosing this. Choosing you. Not the mate the moon goddess assigned me. Not the AlphaKing who saved my life. You. The man who respected my choices even when they hurt. Who fought for laws my father died trying to pass. Who gave me time to heal before asking for anything in return. Then I accept. And Rowan, I promise you this, I'll protect you without controlling you. Honor your choices even when I disagree. Love you for who you are, not what you are. That's the bond I'm offering. Take it or leave it. She smiled, genuine expression unmarred by fear or hesitation. I'll take it. The mating ceremony was private. Just Hayes Connor, Dr. Morse, and Morrison as witnesses. No spectacle, no political theater. Simple exchange of vows in the traditional bite that sealed the bond permanently. Cade's teeth at her throat, gentle despite the strength behind them, marking her as his as she marked him. The mate bond completed with a rush of emotion and connection that went beyond physical. Minds touching, souls recognizing. Partnership formalized in the oldest way wolves knew. When they separated, both were different. Still individuals, still independent, but bound in ways that transcended casual relationship. Mates, partners, law lies in the work that remained. The work was considerable. Year 1 after the council vote saw mixed implementation results. Reformist territories thrived under new protections. True Omegas coming forward, no longer hiding. Claiming frenzies, dropping to near zero in compliant packs. Quality of life improvements, measurable and significant. Conservative territories lagged. Some made minimal effort. Others actively obstructed. But the assault during Winter Festival had shifted public opinion. Moderate wolves who'd been uncertain about changes saw the violence traditionalists were willing to employ. Fence sitters chose sides. Momentum built toward comprehensive compliance. Rowan established the Omega Advocacy Network organization dedicated to supporting true Omegas and implementing protection laws effectively. 50 counselors trained in the first year. Support groups in 30 territories. Crisis hotline for Omegas in danger. Safe houses in major population centers. Making the laws functional instead of just theoretical. Cade supported the work while managing broader political challenges. Traditionalist remnants still cause problems. Not organized violence anymore, but bureaucratic resistance, legal challenges, propaganda campaigns. The enemy had adapted tactics, so did the response. Year 2 brought breakthrough. 3 traditionally conservative alphas, seeing the success in reformist territories, switched positions. Implemented comprehensive protections. Reported immediate improvements in pack cohesion and Omega well-being. Their testimonials carried weight with other fence sitters. By month 1821, of 25 major territories had achieved full compliance. The 4 holdouts were isolated politically and economically. Pressure mounted. Change was no longer a question of if, but when. The final confrontation came during the 2-year anniversary celebration of the council vote. Alpha meetings scheduled to assess implementation and plan next steps. Representatives from all major territories attending, including the 4 holdouts. Cade opened the session with statistics that spoke for themselves. Claiming frenzies down 93% in compliant territories. True Omega suicide rates dropped 87%. Pack stability improved across every metric. The laws worked, denying that required willful blindness. But Alpha Garrett from the holdout territories wasn't convinced. He stood representing the last bastion of organized resistance. These numbers are manipulated. True Omegas are safer under traditional structures where Alphas provide protection through claiming bonds. Rowan rose from her seat in the observer section. She'd been planning this moment for months, prepared for exactly this argument from exactly this source. Permission to address the council, Morrison nodded. The council recognizes Rowan Blackwood, director of Omega Advocacy Network and survivor of claiming violence. She moved to the speaking position, commanding attention through presence and hard-earned authority. Alpha Garrett argues true Omegas are safer under traditional claiming structures. I'd like to test that premise. Her scent released, full true Omega presence flooding the chamber. Every unmated Alpha in the room reacted with biological precision, bodies tensing, instincts activating. The pull was undeniable, but no one moved. Security didn't need to intervene. Warriors didn't need to restrain anyone, because social structures held. Because conscious choice proved stronger than unconscious impulse. Because wolves were more than animals driven by scent and instinct. Rowan's voice carried absolute conviction. You feel the pull, the biological imperative. Your instincts tell you to pursue, claim, possess, and yet you're all sitting in your seats. Not because the response isn't real, but because you're choosing power over impulse. Society over biology. That's what the laws protect. Not suppressing nature, but ensuring choice prevails over instinct. Under traditional structures, I wouldn't have that protection. I'd be claimed by whoever reached me first, forced into a bond I didn't choose. My autonomy sacrificed to someone else's biological response. That's not safety, that's ownership. The laws don't prevent claiming bonds. They prevent forced bonds. Huge difference. I'm mated to the AlphaKing by choice, because we chose each other. That's what these laws protect. Choice, agency, freedom. Alpha Garrett had no response. The demonstration was too clear. The logic too sound. He sat slowly defeated not by argument, but by evidence. Morrison's gavel struck. The 4 holdout territories will achieve full compliance within 90 days or face council sanctions, including economic restrictions and loss of voting rights. This body has spoken. These laws stand. This discussion is closed. The vote was 13-2, with the 4 holdouts abstaining rather than opposing directly. The era of resistance was over. Compliance was now universal expectation. Rowan and Cade stood together on the council chamber steps as representatives departed. 2 years of fighting, hundreds of obstacles overcome, countless small victories accumulating into transformational change. Your father would be proud. She looked up at him. Our father, your family now. His legacy is yours too. Then let's make sure we honor it. Keep fighting, keep building, keep protecting those who need it most. The work continued. Year 3 brought refinement of the laws based on implementation experience. Year 4 saw international adoption of similar protections. Year 5 marked the establishment of the first true Omega representation on the Alpha Council itself. 5 years after Marcus's conviction, Silvercrest hosted the anniversary celebration. Not just for the laws, but for the movement that had transformed pack culture. 500 wolves attended, media covered extensively, politicians gave speeches about progress and justice and the courage to change. Rowan stood before the monument honoring her father and Declan. Both names carved in granite, both legacies secured through the lives they'd touched and the changes they'd enabled. She placed flowers at the base tradition she maintained every year. Beside her, a 3-year-old girl with her mother's eyes and her father's determination toddled forward. Mara Blackwood, born into a world her grandfather had fought to create, growing up with choices and protections that hadn't existed when her mother was her age. Mommy, who are they? Heroes, baby. They fought so you could be free, so no one would ever force you to be something you're not. Were they strong? Cade answered, kneeling beside his daughter. The strongest, because they chose what was right over what was easy. Remember that. When you're older and facing hard choices, remember that strength means doing what's right even when it costs you. The Monument Plaza was filled with similar families. True Omegas living openly with chosen mates. Alphas who'd learned to protect without possessing. Wolves of all designations coexisting in structures that valued choice over hierarchy. The world wasn't perfect. Incidents still occurred. Some wolves clung to old ways. But progress was undeniable. 5 years of laws producing generational change. Children growing up with different expectations, different values, different futures. Morrison approached slower now at 75 but still sharp. 5 years. Remarkable how much changes when good wolves decide to fight for it, and how much stays the same when they don't. The work's not done. No, but it's further along than I dared hope when we started. Your father's dream is alive, growing, spreading beyond anything he imagined. Because people like Declan sacrificed themselves to protect it. People like Rowan risked everything to testify. People like you used your power to enable change instead of blocking it. The old Alpha nodded slowly. That's legacy. Not what we do for ourselves, but what we build for those who come after. You and Rowan Mara, all the children growing up under these protections. That's the legacy your father earned. Declan earned. Even Marcus's victims earned through their deaths. The evening celebration continued late into night. Music and stories, and the kind of communal bonding that made pack life worth preserving. Cade and Rowan eventually slipped away, finding quiet space on a terrace overlooking Silvercrest. 5 years since you destroyed my poison. Best decision I ever made, even if you hated me for it at the time. I did. Felt like you'd stolen my control, my choice, my last bit of autonomy. And now I understand. You gave me real choice by taking away the illusion of control. The poison wasn't freedom. It was prison with invisible bars. Do you ever miss it? The certainty of that routine, sometimes, when things get hard and overwhelming. Part of me remembers when life was simple. Drink poison, work, sleep, repeat. No bigger responsibilities. But simple isn't the same as good. I'd rather live complicated and free than simple and slowly dying. Below them, Silvercrest glowed with celebration lights. Their city, their pack, their family. Built on principles worth fighting for. Worth dying for, as too many had proven. Mara will grow up in a different world. She'll never know claiming frenzies or forced bonds, never understand why anyone would poison themselves to avoid their own nature. That's what we fought for. So she wouldn't have to. Your father would love her, would love seeing what his sacrifice made possible. He'd love that you're finishing what he started, that his daughter found someone who honors his work by continuing it. They stood together, watching the celebration. Partners in every sense, mates by choice, leaders building future worth inheriting. The mate bond hummed between them, familiar and comfortable after 5 years of shared life. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, laws to refine, systems to improve, wolves who still resisted to convince or contain. The work was never finished. Progress required constant attention and persistent effort. But tonight was for celebrating, for remembering those who'd paid the ultimate price, for honoring their sacrifice with lives well-lived and futures built on their foundation. Mara appeared in the doorway, Hayes carrying her after she'd fallen asleep during festivities. The old colonel had softened over the years, warrior becoming grandfather figure to the next generation. He transferred the sleeping child to Cade's arms. She's asking for bedtime story about grandfather Thomas. Third time this week. Rowan took her daughter. I'll tell her about the alpha who fought so wolves could choose their own destinies, who believed protecting the vulnerable was highest form of strength, who died proving those beliefs were worth any cost. That's legacy. That's what we pass down. Not fear or tradition or blind obedience, but courage and choice, and the understanding that real strength means protecting without controlling. They carried Mara inside. Behind them, Silvercrest continued celebrating. 5 years of transformation. 5 years of proving change was possible. 5 years of honoring those who'd made it happen through their sacrifice and courage. The stars emerged as clouds cleared. Montana mountains stood eternal, bearing silent witness to the work that happened in their shadow. Laws written, lives changed, futures secured, All because wolves chose to fight for what was right instead of accepting what was easy. In her room, Mara stirred as Rowan tucked her in. The child's eyes opened briefly, sleepy but aware. Mommy, will I be strong like grandfather? You already are, baby. You were born into a world he built. That makes you part of his strength. And Declan, will I be brave like him? Kate answered from the doorway. You'll be braver, because you'll never face the choices he did. Never need to prove yourself through sacrifice. That's what they all fought for. So you could be strong and brave by choosing life, not by choosing death. The words were promise and benediction. Legacy written in the absence of trauma rather than its presence. Children inheriting peace instead of violence. Freedom instead of fear. Choice instead of compulsion. That was the revolution Marcus had tried to prevent. The change Thomas had died pursuing. The future Declan had given his life to protect. And now, 5 years later, it was reality. Imperfect, incomplete, but real. The story that began with poison and ended with choice. With one true Omega who'd chosen slow death over captivity, finding instead that she could choose life with dignity. With an Alpha King who'd learned that real strength meant protecting without controlling. With soldiers who'd discovered that redemption came through action rather than regret. Their legacy was written in laws and lives, and the children who'd never understand why such laws were necessary in the first place. That incomprehension was the greatest victory of all. Rowan and Cade stood together, watching their daughter sleep. Tomorrow would bring new challenges. But tonight they had this proof that fighting for what's right, paying whatever cost required, could change the world. Not perfectly, not completely, but enough for now, for always.